The third step when it comes to starting your YouTube channel is all about defining your target audience, which means being extremely clear on who it is that you want to reach with the video content that you are creating. And this is step 3 of this Start a YouTube channel series. And what is very important when it comes to defining your target audience is that when you understand who those people are, it is going to shape the kind of videos that you are going to create, the topics that you are going to cover, as well as the message that you are going to communicate to your audience. And one of the things that you are going to learn when it comes to defining your target audience is that you need to have a very specific customer avatar. You need to actually define your ideal customer profile, or ICP as they say in marketing. Having that clarity is actually very important, and you need to be as detailed as you can be when it comes to actually defining your customer avatar or the audience that you want to target. When it comes to this kind of activity where you are defining the person that you want to reach or the person that you want to serve with your video content, you actually be required to do more research so that you can have an in-depth understanding of who your ideal customer is. And that might be the younger version of yourself. You may be creating content to help a person who is a few steps behind you. But more importantly, you want to actually have clarity on who it is that you want to serve, because this is going to actually inform some of the decisions that you are going to make going forward when it comes to the content strategy that you are going to have, as well as probably how you are going to make money with your YouTube channel if that's the path that you want to take. One of the challenges that you are going to face when you are thinking of defining your customer, when you are defining your target audience, is that you might feel tempted to actually create content for everyone. Unfortunately, if you try to create content for everyone, you are not going to serve anyone. And as they say, trying to please everybody is actually a recipe for disaster, because you are going to be confusing everyone. So you need to define who you are going to target so that you can start creating content specific to that audience. And this can be a very limiting thing. It is a very challenging thing to do, because when you are asked to define your target audience, it means that you're actually going to say no to other audiences. And that can feel limiting, because as a business person, as a content creator, you probably think that you need to reach as wide of an audience as is possible. And in theory, that sounds good. It sounds like a good idea, but it is not. Actually, the deeper you go with a specific audience, the better you are, and the wider you go. What is interesting is that the limiting idea here is that you think when you are asked to narrow down your target audience, you're not going to have a lot of people. But what in most cases we forget is when you narrow down to a specific person, there are very many people of that kind in the world. And especially when it comes to YouTube, your video, when well optimized, can reach people across the world. What this means is that you should not be afraid that by targeting a specific audience, that you are limiting the growth of your YouTube channel or the growth of the business that you are building. To the contrary, you are actually being very smart when it comes to allocating resources that you have to actually target a specific audience. And these are people who can actually end up buying the product or services that you provide. Now, there are 3 takeaways that I want you to get from this video or from this conversation that we are having today. The first one is that clarity is very important. What this means is that you need to be very clear when it comes to who it is that you're targeting with the content that you're creating on your YouTube channel. You do not want to actually spread yourself too thin. You want to actually target a very specific ideal customer or customer avatar when it comes to the content that you are creating. The second takeaway is that you should focus on just one customer avatar. And what this actually entails is the idea that if you are going to be solving problems for your target audience, you should solve problems for a very specific customer profile. That's why having an ideal customer profile or having clearly defined avatar is very critical to the success of your YouTube channel. You want someone who comes to your YouTube channel to actually be the right kind of a person who needs the services or the products that you provide. And even more important, even if they are not going to buy the products or services that you have, your content should be able to help a very specific person. The third takeaway is that you should focus on depth over breadth. And what this means is that you should actually seek to grow deeper connection with your audience, build trust with that audience, and actually be able to have loyalty or build loyalty with the community that you're building on YouTube. And this can only happen if you are actually solving problems for a very specific target audience. So defining your target audience is actually going to be a benefit to you when it comes to the audience that you're going to have on your YouTube channel. Now, I am not saying that defining your target audience on YouTube is going to be an easy thing. You may struggle with it in early stages, and this is where you hear people say that probably you should create a number of videos and see how things pan out, more or less like throwing spaghetti on the wall and figuring out which one sticks. Well, it is a long strategy, but if you must start there, then I would prefer you start that way than waiting for you to get clarity, because you might actually use that as a way to procrastinate starting your YouTube channel. So if you are to ask me, I would actually advise or recommend that you go ahead and start creating content, generally on a topic that you have already decided upon or the niche that you have already picked. And you can probably play around with creating 3 or 4 videos per subtopic and use that and use the metrics that you get to be able to decide on who it is that is actually getting to watch your videos. And I have seen this in action. I have created video content where the audience in the backend is not necessarily the audience that I had targeted. You may create content thinking that you're trying to actually attract a certain audience, only to realize that you are actually attracting a slightly different audience. And at that point, you are going to use data to make a decision whether you want to continue on that path or you want to continue with what you had as your original path or as your original idea. By defining your target audience, what you are going to do is that you are going to ensure that every video that you create has a purpose and has an impact, which is going to help you grow your YouTube channel as well as help you serve your target audience in a better way. And now that you have clarity on who your target audience is, and previously you have established your niche, you have established your why, now it is time for you to actually start thinking of how your YouTube channel is going to make money, which is the next step that we are going to discuss in this Start a YouTube Channel series.